Welcome into CBS Sports HQ, delivered by Papa John's. New grilled buffalo chicken papadilla, just $6. Hakeem Dermish here with you as the SEC makes its return. And what a return it was in the SEC on CBS Game of the Week. The defending champion LSU Tigers become the first defending national champs to lose their season opener at home in more than 4 decades. Here's how it went down. Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Big story before kickoff. All-American LSU cornerback Derek Stingley Jr. hospitalized Friday night with an acute illness, missing the opener, condition not related to COVID-19. LSU riding a 16-game winning streak, longest active streak in the nation. Miles Brennan takes over for Joe Burrow. That follow-up, arguably the greatest season in college football history. Mike Leach, welcome back to the SEC. The era has begun of the air raid offense. He's got a new quarterback, brings him from the Pac-12. KJ Costello, grad transfer from Stanford, paying dividends right away. 3rd and 10. Costello down the left sideline to Osiris Mitchell, 43-yard touchdown. Mississippi State up 17-14. Costello 21-36, 292 yards, 2 touchdowns at halftime. We go to the 3rd. Miles Brennan going to keep LSU in this game. Deep over the middle to Terrace Marshall Jr. 37-yard touchdown. The only receiver on this roster with extensive experience, having to replace 4 of its 5 receivers from last season. And Miles Brennan makes a play, finding Terrace Marshall. Costello, first play of Mississippi State's ensuing drive. To Kylan Hill, avoids attack. Just push him out. 75 yards down the sideline for the touchdown. Mississippi State in front, 27-24. Bulldogs going punch for punch, blow for blow with the Tigers. Early 4th. Costello, Austin Williams, 9 yards out. It's a 10-point Bulldog lead. Following an LSU interception. Looking to take advantage are the Tigers. Brennan to Marshall Jr. 33-yard touchdown reception. It's a 3-point game. Late 4th. Still 37-34, Mississippi State. 3rd and 9, Costello to Osiris Mitchell. One more time. Led the team in receiving yards last season. Well on his way to leading the team in receiving yards this season. 7 catches, 183 yards, 2 touchdowns. KJ Costello, have yourself a day, kid. 36 of 60 for 623 yards. 5 touchdowns, 2 picks. Most passing yards in a game in SEC history. 11th most passing yards in college football history. Mississippi State plus 14.5. Our experts were all over the Bulldogs, getting the points. Game goes over the total of 57. And I'll tell you what, KJ Costello, absolutely on fire. 623 yards. Mississippi State on the money line was plus 450. Plus 14.5 was the right play here. Most popular wager, LSU on the money line at minus 600, 42% of the tickets. Probably part of a parlay or something like that. That doesn't work for you, unfortunately, if you had LSU on the money line. KJ Costello, money, standing by with Jamie Erdahl.
To picture that I'd be here a year ago on this day, it's just, I'm speechless, man. I mean, had a hell of a career at Stanford, didn't end the way I wanted to. All of a sudden, I'm out and going from California to Mississippi, and
best quarterback in the country right there.
All of a sudden,
no cap,
I come out here and I'm.
And these guys love you.
No, man, I don't know. I came out here. I've been here, 2.5, 3 months. Got here June 1st. Remember every single day since I've been out here, man. I had the craziest offseason of my career. Been playing for 16, 17 years. Had to rehab. Couldn't throw a ball a year ago today. For a while there, I didn't know what was next, man. I mean, I left some of my best friends at Stanford. I didn't know what was going to come next. And for these guys to embrace me the way they have, I mean, I know a lot of guys look at the quarterback as a guy that inspires everybody else, but these guys have inspired me the second I got here. Just the grit, the tenacity of these guys, the way they work out. I mean, I tell people back home all the time, every day it's like we're going live in practice. Leach is just different. Guys are tackling guys in 7-on. It's a mentality, and without a doubt, the SEC, it means more. I can't say anything else but that.
KJ Costello injured for much of last season. Had a very good 2018. He was tied for 13th in the FBS in passing touchdowns with 29. Had 5 in his debut in the SEC. 623 passing yards sets an SEC record. I mean, this is absolutely mind-boggling, to be honest, because you sit here and you go, their air raid offense, is it going to work? Oh, it worked. Mike Leach proved that in the very first game at Mississippi State. LSU makes history, wrong kind of history. First defending champ to lose the season opener at home since Notre Dame back in 1978. And again, LSU and this is not as good either. First reigning college football playoff champ to not cover following their opener. They closed at a 14.5-point favorite, and they lose by 10. And to break it down, we welcome in former Florida State standout, two-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden and CBS Sports HQ college football analyst Barrett Sallee, Chip Patterson. B-Mac, one of the guys that had Mississippi State plus 16.5, KJ Costello and Mike Leach make you look absolutely smart here. Your initial reaction to what you saw on CBS?
Well, I'm not surprised about the volume that I saw from Mississippi State's offense, especially with an experienced passer at the helm in KJ Costello. But I am surprised about this at the success they had, especially on third down. They were 50% on third down, 8 of 16. He converted 3 big-time touchdown passes on third down. That's huge. That's a huge stat. That's winning football. Then when you factor in what everything else he did, over 600 yards, 5 passing touchdowns. This is a small glimpse of what we potentially could see from KJ if he's healthy throughout the season. And granted, he's in the SEC, and it means a lot more. This is not the same as throwing 600 yards in the Pac-12 or the Big 12. When you do this in the SEC, especially on the road at LSU, this is a big deal. This instantly gets your name in that Heisman conversation off of 1 week. Guarantee. I guarantee that based on what he was able to do today, and they won the ball game. So I am surprised at the success he had, especially on third down. But when you look at the volume, 60 attempts, this is what you will get from a quarterback in Mike Leach's system. But he just was unbelievable, especially on third down.
He really was, and B-Mac mentioned that Mike Leach system. Well, I'm the idiot that before the game and basically all week said that system wouldn't work in the SEC, that they spread people out too much on the line of scrimmage, and that LSU's size and speed up front on the defensive line would completely disrupt that. Yeah, over 600 yards later, I was way wrong. I apologize for that. You will never see me be that dumb again, hopefully. But look, I think this is a credit to what Mike Leach has done. He took a team that had really Osiris Mitchell and then a bunch of question marks at wide receiver and set a record in game 1 against an LSU defense that is still extremely talented. I don't want to hear about Derek Stingley not being there. Yeah, he's great, and he was and probably is the best defensive player in college football. Doesn't matter. KJ Costello flat out owned them. Deep ball after deep ball after deep ball. They were put right on the money. If Derek Stingley was there, wouldn't have mattered. Because KJ Costello could have either dropped it in a bucket or moved on to somebody else, because you saw what kind of weapons this guy has. Kylan Hill over 100 yards as a receiver out of the backfield. 3 different players over 100 yards. Tyrell Shavers, the Alabama receiver, was an impact player. This is what Mike Leach does. He finds receivers. He makes his system work. And I'll be the first to admit, I was wrong. This offense and KJ Costello running this offense is extremely dangerous in the SEC.
I really think that LSU's defense was mismanaged in this game. Mike Leach saying after the contest that he was expecting LSU to play a little bit softer on the outside, but when they played so tight to the line of scrimmage, then they're just going to start taking it over the top and trying to throw it over those cornerbacks. And those cornerbacks didn't answer the call. Bo Pelini trusted them to be able to win one-on-one battles, and they lost them time and time and time again. And that is one of those things about this passing attack, is that it waits for you to show your hand, and then it goes to the next option. And sometimes that is going to be Kylan Hill throwing something short and letting one of the best skill players in in the entire country make something happen in the open field. Kylan Hill was one of the most targeted receivers, as Barrett mentioned, in this game. But for LSU to see that you are not holding your own on the outside and still continue to play close to the line of scrimmage when you're getting beat time and time again, man, this is a bad sign for LSU's defense. I thought the game was mismanaged. I was really looking at this LSU coaching staff to put in some changes at halftime to try and address this, and there was none. And so if you're an LSU fan, you're very concerned about your defense and whether or not this is going to be the kind of group that's going to be able to help keep you in that top 3, right? Because when Les Miles finished tied for 4th in the SEC West, he was thrown on the hot seat and eventually was no longer the LSU head coach. They expect to be right there at the top. They're not going to win the SEC West every single year, but don't let Auburn and Texas A&M, or what we saw today, Mississippi State, or even Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin. I mean, all of a sudden, what I thought was a very high floor for this LSU team, the defending national champions, we really have to reevaluate it. They've got to shore up the defense. They got to shore up the offensive line. And then all of that should make life easier on Miles Brennan, who definitely showed that he's got some room to grow as the starting quarterback as well.
Yeah, I want to talk about Miles Brennan in a moment, but I still want to talk about the guy who just set an SEC record for most yards in a game. I mean, that doesn't happen all the time. 623 yards. And B-Mac and Chip, we talked pregame about the fact that maybe Mike Leach takes KJ Costello, turns him into Gardner Minshew, a fellow transfer who came from East Carolina, lit up the scoreboard at Washington State. And B-Mac, you said, why not?
No question. The reason why I said that, Hakeem, is because the volume, the opportunities that he will get to showcase his arm talent, that you have to have a volume-like quarterback in Mike Leach's system for it to be successful. A quarterback who don't mind throwing 50 to 60 times a ball game. And clearly, KJ, he can handle that type of workload, and I think because of the opportunities, he will be successful. The thing about KJ, he played at Stanford, he played in the Pac-12. He was a successful quarterback. Dealt with some injuries last year, but if you go back and watch his 2018 film, he was a precise, accurate quarterback, threw for over 3,000 yards, 29 touchdowns in Stanford's offense. So it's not like KJ can't throw and deep out comebacks and things of that nature. He can throw. We saw that today. We just didn't see him do a lot of that in Stanford's offense. But now, seeing what he can do in this air raid attack, and what he did today did nothing but build more confidence in him about attacking these SEC defenses. I'm not saying that what we saw today would lead me to believe that Mississippi State could compete for an SEC West title in 1 week. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is they're going to be an entertaining ball club to watch, especially with KJ playing like he did today. And because of that, you would have to, at some point in time, throw his name in that Heisman conversation if he continues to do what he did today.
Anthony Gordon in 2019, Gardner Minshew in 2018, Luke Falk the 2 years prior, Mike Leach quarterbacks finish as top passers, not in the conference, in the entire nation. And B-Mac, I'm so glad you mentioned that 2018 season for KJ Costello, because as soon as the commitment was made official, I was reminded of a 41-38 shootout. Washington State, Gardner Minshew and Mike Leach against Stanford. It was a top 10 Washington State team. And of course, KJ Costello was keeping Stanford then unranked in this battle. I think that game right there was when Mike Leach said, I'm going to file this little KJ Costello note away so that if I ever have the opportunity to coach this quarterback, I think that he would be great, because he was fantastic in that 2018 season. Remember JJ Arcega-Whiteside, the way that Stanford was starting to spread it out. I think that 2018 Washington State-Stanford shootout game was where this relationship really first was forged. That's when Mike Leach was impressed by him. And now we get to see what Mike Leach can do. And yes, without a doubt, because of the volume, as you mentioned, B-Mac, he's going to be a top 5 passer in all of college football this year. But what does it mean for winning time? I loved his guts. I loved the way he stepped into the biggest moments on this game, pivotal third downs, pivotal goal-to-go situations. He stepped up and he made the right throw, right on the money, made his receivers look good. So yeah, KJ Costello is one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football. And what it means for the big awards, well, he's going to have to be splitting hairs with some other pretty good quarterbacks, including some that are going to be joining the fold when the Big Ten comes back. But still, gotta love the initial reaction if you're a Mississippi State fan.
Yeah, KJ Costello tore up DBU, and you can certainly tell the experience that KJ Costello has, and you could see clearly the inexperience that Miles Brennan has, having to take over for Joe Burrow, arguably the best season in college football history. Barrett, when you look at Miles Brennan's game, how did he look to you?
I don't think he looked good at all. I don't think he looked like a championship caliber quarterback. And Chip mentioned earlier that his offensive line didn't protect him, and that's true. But you didn't see the pocket presence. Joe Burrow had a great ability to escape and still keep his eyes downfield. Miles Brennan didn't escape, and he didn't keep his eyes downfield. Both of those things didn't happen. And so he looked very shell-shocked. He had happy feet. I don't think he really had a firm grasp of the speed that he was going to see from a defense. And look, Zach Arnett deserves a ton of credit, too. The Mississippi State defensive coordinator was absolutely flawless in this game for the first 2.5 quarters, and I think really set the tone. So, but Miles Brennan, look, I think we're judging him at a different level, right? Because what we saw Joe Burrow do last year. But some of the simple things that Joe Burrow did successfully and consistently, like finding a way to escape and having that mental clock in the pocket, Miles just didn't have that. And I think that's something that, you have to have an innate ability as a quarterback. And it didn't feel like he has it. Maybe that had to do with the fact that we had a shortened offseason that didn't have spring practice, but it didn't feel that way. So is Miles Brennan a championship caliber quarterback? Short sample size, small sample size, but no, I didn't see it against Mississippi State. And judging from the defenses that he's going to play down the road, it's hard to imagine a scenario where suddenly he finds that between now and the end of the season.
Well, I think it's a bit unfair to compare Miles Brennan's first start to what Joe Burrow did the entire season. We knew it was going to be a big-time drop-off, not just at the quarterback position, but the floor of the offense, losing Joe Brady, especially on third down. The offensive line losing so many key contributors to that unit. Wide receiver-wise, running back-wise, not having Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So we knew it would be a drop-off. And I think my expectations for Miles Brennan was going to this ball game, rely on the ground game to get him comfortable. We saw two different quarterbacks in the first half. In the first half, he was like a deer in headlights, didn't know exactly what was coming and how to attack what was coming. And eventually in the second half, he kind of calmed down a little bit. Remember the first drive after halftime? They ran the football. I think that had to be the calling card today when you're starting a guy at the quarterback position who's making his first start following Joe Burrow. You know what I mean? So that's a huge task for any quarterback based on what Joe Burrow was able to do and the entire offense. He didn't play his best football, but he didn't just lay down either. I think he needs to have help. And if you don't dominate in the trenches on either side of the football, that's the best recipe to have to lose a ball game. And what we saw Mississippi State did, especially the defensive line group, they dominated at the line of scrimmage. When the last time have we seen LSU just lose that battle in the trenches? I don't know. They didn't even run for 100 yards today. So I think he will get better, but this was the wrong matchup to have for Miles Brennan making his first start against Mississippi State, a new offense no one has ever seen at Mississippi State, along with an experienced quarterback. This was just the wrong matchup, but nothing you can do about it because that was the ball club that was on your schedule, and he didn't get the job done today.
Miles Brennan looks like a Les Miles era quarterback at LSU, and I say that with all the love in my heart for the fact that he can step up in big moments and he can connect with those incredibly talented wide receivers. We saw Reed Gilbert step up, the freshman wide receiver. We saw that Terrace Marshall Jr. is still going to be a dynamic playmaker within the framework of this offense. And we're going to continue to see those wide receivers. I mean, he threw for 345 yards. And B-Mac, great point. He came back and did look more comfortable and more confident after halftime. But this was a performance where they needed somebody that was going to be able to take the offense and put it on his shoulders. They needed a heavyweight that was going to go blow for blow against KJ Costello, who was just absolutely cooking LSU's defense. Miles Brennan wasn't able to reach that level, and he might be able to reach that level by the end of the season. And it is unfair, Barrett, to compare him to Joe Burrow But how about let's compare him to the rest of the SEC quarterbacks? I'd rather have Mac Jones. I'd rather have Kyle Trask. I might even rather have Kellen Mond. I might rather have several quarterbacks. I might rather have Bo Nix right now than Miles Brennan. And when you're in that middle tier of the quarterbacks in the SEC, well then, yeah, you're in Les Miles era LSU quarterback, which means they need to get better at running the ball and they need to get better at defense if they want to be able to win.
Great stuff from our experts there. And hey, you want to check out our guys here on the podcast. Check out BMAC on his podcast, All Things Covered, with former LSU star and Cardinals corner Patrick Peterson. Look, LSU could have used BMAC, could have used Patrick Peterson, could have used Tyrann Mathieu, who's the latest guest on All Things Covered. And then check out Chip Patterson and his crew on the Cover 3 podcast, their weekly lock segment, a fan favorite. All Things Covered and the Cover 3 podcast. Download and subscribe today.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.